Here's a great, deeply but very simple summary passage, like teaching a beginner or a curious child. This summary covers what happened, when, who did it, how the temple architecture changed, with easy words and extra explanation. Deep simple summary. Temple architecture in 11th century. About 1,000 years ago, during the 11th century, something amazing happened in Karnataka, a state in South India. A group of very skilled temple builders, architects, in the Deccan region, a big plateau covering much of South India, started making many beautiful temples. This period saw a huge burst of temple construction, like a wave, and this wave left of the most stunning stone temples in Indian history. Who built the temples? In earlier times, to 800 AD, or the 7th and 8th century, most temples were built by royal kings and queens, the rulers at the very top. But by the 11th century, things had changed. Now, smaller rulers called feudatories, local kings who served a big emperor, and officials working under the king were the ones building most temples. This means that temple building became more widespread, not just something only the emperor did. Even generals, ministers, and local lords started making temples in their areas. Why don't we hear about these temples today? Sadly, most people today don't know about these beautiful temples in Karnataka. Why? Because when people think of South Indian temples, they usually think of Tamil Nadu, where there are many famous temples with tall gateway towers, gopurams, and busy pilgrimage centers that still attract huge crowds. These famous temples, like in Madurai or Chidambaram, take up space in people's minds, so the older, quieter, but equally amazing temples in Karnataka get forgotten. Where can we find these Karnataka temples? You can still see these ancient temples in Sudi, with the Malajuna and Joda Kalasa temples, Anagari, with the Amriteshvara temple, Itagi, with the Mahadeva temple, Badami, the old capital of the Chalukyas, with the Yelama temple near a big old water tank that still has water. These temples are real and still standing today. You can visit them. How were these temples designed? Earlier temples, built by the Chalukyas and Rashtrakutas, had square-shaped floor plans, like a square building with small square rooms sticking out from it. Carvings inside little wall niches, where sculptors placed statues of gods or mythological scenes. Tiered roofs, meaning the roof had layers like steps or a wedding cake. The roofs and walls were decorated with tiny models of buildings, carved in stone. All of this was carved from strong stone, like sandstone or basalt. These carvings looked solid, thick, and round, not thin or sharp. One expert said they looked chubby, in a nice way, like soft and full. But by the 11th century, temple designs became more complex and creative. The shapes got more detailed. Instead of just squares, builders used many layers of squares sticking out from each other. Imagine a square, then a larger square around it, then another sticking out, like a flower blooming in steps. They started using star-shaped floor plans, which came from northern India and Malwa. These were made by rotating squares and placing them inside each other to make shapes like stars with many points. Some had 16, 24, or even 32 points. These designs made the temples look like giant stone stars on the ground. One of the most amazing examples is the Dada Basappa temple in Dambal, which is shaped like a 24-pointed star, a truly rare and beautiful design. Conclusion. So in short, the 11th century in Karnataka was a golden time for temple building. Not kings, but local rulers and officials built most of these temples. These temples are less known today because bigger Tamil Nadu temples became more famous. The designs of these Karnataka temples were smart and artistic, from simple square shapes to fan-shaped floor plans. The best example of the star-style temple is the Dada Basappa temple, shaped like a 24. These temples are quiet jewels of history, and they tell us how creativity, devotion, and local powers came together to build something beautiful and lasting. Would you like me to also give you a simple visual diagram of how the square and star-shaped floor plans looked, or help you with a map showing where these temples are in Karnataka? Here is a deep and very detailed summary of the passage you shared, clearest way for full understanding. 1. New temple designs needed. More decoration. By the 11th century in Karnataka, temple architecture had changed a lot. Temples were no longer simple. They had many walls, shapes, and corners sticking out in all directions. This created much more surface area to decorate with carvings. So, builders had to come up with new ways to fill all this space with detailed artwork. 2. Used specials like soapstone and potstone. To create very detailed, smooth carvings, the temple builders, called sthatis, started using soapstone and potstone. These are soft stones when freshly cut, easy to shape with tools, but they become harder after drying. This allowed sculptors to carve curvy, cat-flowing designs, make delicate flowers, animals, and figures, create very ornate and fancy architecture. This happened especially in the Dharwad region, which is south of the Krishna River. 3. Pillars became round and shiny. Inside the temples, the pillars, columns also changed in style. Earlier pillars were more blocky or simple, but now they became round, smooth, and polished. They looked like they were made by a lathe, a tool that spins material while shaping it. This gave them a shiny, elegant look, even though they were stone. This showed the high skill of the craftsman. 4. The towers, spires, still followed South Indian style, but were more complex. The temple towers, called shikaras, still followed the Dravidian style, which is built in steps or layers, like a pyramid or wedding cake. Each layer gets smaller as it goes up. But now builders added more projections, parts that stick out, repetitions of the main tower, small towers around the central one. This matched the complex floor plans of the temples, which had squares sticking out of squares, sometimes even rotated squares, forming star shapes. So the temple was symmetrical and very detailed, both in plan, floor, and elevation tower. 5. The walls were decorated with miniature temples. The outer walls of the temple were decorated with carved mini pillars, just for decoration. On those pillars, they carved tiny temples in many different styles. Each of these mini temples showed a different regional style from across India. This shows that the sthapatis builders were very experienced, knowledgeable about architecture in other regions, proud of showing many styles in one temple. This made the temple look like a museum of architecture, carved into stone. 6. These temples looked alive and full of movement because of the flowing carvings, the complex walls, the repeating towers, the curving pillars. These temples did not feel static or still. They felt alive, like they were moving, dancing, breathing. The combination of all these elements made the temples feel vibrant and full of energy. 7. The Itagi Mahadeva Temple is a great example. The Mahadev Temple in Itagi is one of the best examples of this type of architecture. It shows soapstone carvings, complex star-shaped floor plan, detailed spire with many projections, round, polished pillars, walls decorated with miniature temple designs. It is a masterpiece of 11th century temple design in Karnataka. Final summary in one line. In the 11th century, temple builders in Karnataka created highly complex, richly decorated, and beautifully alive temples, using soft soapstone, advanced design skills, and inspiration from many Indian regions, with the Itagi Mahadev Temple as a shining example. Would you like me to draw a simple diagram of the temple plan and tower to help visualize all this better? Let's go even deeper and explain everything in super simple, beginner-level language with extra detail added to make every idea crystal clear. Imagine I'm teaching a curious kid or someone new to this topic. Starting point. What's happening? We are learning about temples century, about 1000 India, especially in the Deccan region. The Deccan is the large area between the north and south of India. It includes places like Karnataka. At this time, a powerful dynasty called the Chalukyas ruled this region. They temple architects, sthapatis, built amazing temples in different styles. Let's now explain the passage, line by line, with great depth and simplicity. North of the Krishna River, Closer to the heart of Chalukya power, the preference seems to have been for harder varieties of stone. Krishna River, a large river flowing across southern India. We're talking about the area above, north of this river. Heart of Chalukya power. This area was near the capital city or ruling center of the Chalukyas, where the king lived and ruled from. Preference for harder varieties of stone. Builders here chose strong hard stones to build temples. Stones like granite or very hard basalt. These are tough, don't break easily, and last long. Extra detail. Hard stone is difficult to carve, like trying to cut a rock with a small knife. But it gives the temple a solid, powerful feeling and makes it last hundreds of years. The architectural style also reflects North Indian influences, with tall plinths taking up most of the bottom half of the wall. Architectural style, the way the temple is built, how it looks, how it's shaped, reflects North Indian influences. This means the style came from North India. Maybe builders were inspired by temples from places like Madhya Pradesh or Uttar Pradesh. Tall plinths. A plinth is like a big platform or base on which the temple stands. Imagine a raised stage for the temple. Taking up most of the bottom half, the base was very tall, covering almost half the height of the temple's lower walls. Extra detail. This made the temples look taller and grander. You had to climb steps to reach the main temple, which gave a feeling of entering something holy and important. And tall, curvilinear brick towers on the superstructure. Tall equals high up. Curvilinear equals the shape was curved, not straight or boxy, like a bulging cone or a mountain peak with soft curves. Brick towers equals the upper part, called the shikara, was made of bricks, not just stone. Superstructure, the upper part of the temple, sitting on top of the base. Extra detail. North Indian temples often have curved towers that rise like a sugar loaf or dome, not the stepped pyramid look of Dravidian temples in Tamil Nadu. So these Deccan temples looked partly North Indian. Pillars in the halls generally look as though assembled from stacked square or octagonal forms, decorated with abstract geometric shapes. Pillars in the halls. These are the columns inside the temple halls that hold up the roof, assembled from stacked square or octagonal forms. Each pillar looks like it is made from separate blocks, some square, some 8-sided octagon, placed on top of each other. Decorated with abstract geometric shapes. Instead of gods or animals, the carvings are just shapes, like triangles, zigzags, circles, spirals, etc. Extra detail. These pillars look mathematical and clean, more like designs than stories or pictures. They feel modern, almost like today's minimalist. Instead of pillar forms decorated with miniature temples, the walls are adorned with sculptures of dancing women, contrasted against elegant flat surfaces. Earlier temples used pillars that showed tiny carved temples, like little copies of real temples carved on pillars. Now, builders stopped that. Instead, they made walls with carvings of dancing women. Contrasted against elegant flat surfaces, these carvings stood out because the background wall was smooth and flat, so the dancing women looked even more graceful. Extra detail. This was a stylish urban look. The women had beautiful poses, flowing clothes, and expressive faces. The carvings looked like they were moving, full of life and rhythm. The sophisticated metropolitan style of Kalyana and its environs. Sophisticated, very fine, polished, classy. Metropolitan style, a style that comes from the big, important cities, full of culture and art. Kalyana and its environs. Kalyana, today called Basavakalyan, was a big city in those times. Environs means nearby areas. Extra detail. Temples built in this style were like the fashionable city temples, carefully designed, artistic, and fancy, like something you'd see in a royal capital. The Dattatreya Temple at Chitarki, in the modern Vijayapura district, exemplifies this style. This means the Dattatreya Temple in Chitarki is a great example of this metropolitan, north-influenced style. Vijayapura district, that's where this place is today, in North Karnataka. The importance of these two new Deccan architectural lineages will become apparent when we discuss the successors of the Chalukyas in the next chapter. Two architectural lineages. 1. The southern style, with soft soapstone, rounded pillars, and many projections, like a Tagi temple. 2. The northern style, with hard stone, geometric pillars, and dancing women, like Chitarki temple. These styles are important because future kingdoms, after the Chalukyas, would copy and develop them further. Extra detail. This is just the beginning. The real temple explosion will come under their successors, like the Hoysalas, who build even more amazing temples based on these ideas. Deccan Sthapatis in the 11th century competed to create the most innovative floor plans, the most imposing temples, the most elaborate sculptural ornamentations. Sthapatis equals temple architects and builders. Competed, they tried to outdo each other, make the best, biggest, most beautiful temples. Innovative floor plans, they designed new, creative layouts for temples. Not just simple squares, but complex star-like and interlocking designs. Imposing temples, temples that looked grand, tall, majestic, that made people say, wow. Elaborate sculptural ornamentations, they added super detailed carvings, gods, dancers, animals, flowers, covering every wall and pillar. Extra detail, temple building was a kind of art competition. Kings, nobles, and builders wanted to make temples that stood out like celebrities of stone. The greatest shrines could be declared, just like the greatest poets, emperors among temples, admired by rivals and inspire imitations. Just like the best poets were called kings among poets, the best temples were called emperors among temples. These temples were so good that even rival builders respected them and copied their designs. Extra detail. People saw these temples not just as buildings, but as masterpieces of art filled with skill, devotion, and pride. Final super simple summary, deep and clear. In the 11th century, temple building in the Deccan region of India became more creative and amazing. In the north of the Krishna River, near the Chalukya capital, builders used very hard stone and followed North Indian styles, with tall bases, curved brick towers, and pillars made of stacked shapes. Walls had beautiful carvings of dancing women on smooth backgrounds. This was the fancy city style of Kalyana. These temples were very different from earlier styles. Builders in the Deccan were trying to make the best temples ever, using new shapes, new materials, and new ideas. Some temples became so famous they were called emperors among temples, and others copied them. This was just the start. These new styles would soon lead to even greater temple art in the centuries to come. Would you like a diagram or simple chart comparing these northern and southern Deccan temple styles? Here's a great, deep, and detailed summary of the passage, explained in the simplest possible, like you're a curious beginner wanting a detailed summary. In the 11th century, the Deccan region, middle southern India, was thriving, meaning it was rich, stable, and full of amazing art, temples, and culture. But this kind of success doesn't happen by accident. It needs a strong government, a big, organized empire that can keep peace, collect taxes, build roads and temples, and protect its people from danger. And the Deccan had exactly that, a stable, large, and well-run empire. We know this is true because of the physical proof left behind. Huge temples, which needed money, workers, and good leadership to build, which show economic control, land grants, which show political power and record-keeping. This empire was strong enough to protect itself from the powerful Chola Empire in Tamil Nadu, which attacked other places like Sri Lanka and East Indian kingdoms. Many of those places were defeated, but the Deccan survived. It fought back and stayed independent multiple times. The person most responsible for this strength was King Someshvara Vas of the Kalyana Chalukya dynasty. He was very determined. He didn't give up. Smart in politics. He knew how to rule, manage people, and plan strategies. And brave. He stood firm even when enemies were powerful. Even though Someshvara's achievements were great, most people today don't remember him. That's because other kings from the same time, like Rajaraj Chola and his sons, are more famous. They are remembered more in books, films, and patriotic stories because they fit into a certain kind of history, the kind that talks mostly about conquering kings and wars. But Someshvara was a different kind of great king. He was a builder, a protector, and a survivor. He made sure the Deccan stayed strong and culturally rich. So the writer is saying we should remember and respect Someshvara more. He was one of the greatest political minds in Indian history, just unsung, not celebrated enough. Simple closing line. Someshvara kept the Deccan strong while others fell. He built, protected, and ruled wisely. A true hero who deserves more credit than he gets today. Would you like a chart or visual to show the differences between the Deccan and the Chola Empire, or to summarize Someshvara's greatness in one glance? Here is a great, deep, detailed summary of the passage in very simple, beginner-friendly language, with all key points and backly explained. Summary. Someshvara versus Rajadhiraja Chola, the great tension before the clash. In the mid-1000 CE, the Deccan region, central southern India, was ruled by a strong king named Someshvara of the Kalyana Chalukya dynasty. He was working hard to unite and strengthen his empire. He was organizing his army, managing his lands, and building a political system vast territory. This was important because a major enemy was preparing to attack again, the Chola Empire from Tamil Nadu in South India. The Cholas were powerful kings who had already attacked the Deccan in 1048 CE under the leadership of Rajaraja Chola's son, Rajadhiraja Chola. During that earlier war, the Cholas burned down the Chalukya capital city, Kalyana, and stole a sacred statue, a temple door guardian. This statue was taken to the Chola capital and proudly displayed like a war trophy. They even carved an inscription on it, saying it was taken after burning Kalyana. The Cholas used it to show off their supposed total victory. For 6 years, Rajadhiraja bragged about this victory. He gave himself grand titles like Vijaya Rajendra, victorious king of kings. But while he was busy celebrating, Someshvara was preparing. Far from being defeated, the Chalukya king was angry and determined to defend his land. Someshvara quietly organized his military, brought in experienced commanders, and sent them to Koppam, a very strategic place by the Tungabhadra River. Why Koppam? Because it had a ford, a shallow river crossing, which the Chola army would have to use to get into the Deccan. Someshvara blocked to trap the Chola king if he tried to come back. Rajaraja Chola didn't expect this. He believed he had already defeated the Chalukyas. But Someshvara was wrong. Points recap. Was building a strong Chalukya Empire in the Deccan. Rajadhiraja Chola had attacked in 1048, burned Kalyana, and stolen a temple statue. He bragged about his victory for 6 years and put the statue in a Chola city as a symbol of triumph. But Someshvara was not defeated. He was preparing quietly. He placed an army at Koppam, a key crossing point over the river. Rajadhiraja underestimated Someshvara and didn't expect a strong counterattack. Would you like a simple map or a timeline to help visualize this story even more clearly? Here's a deep, detailed, and very simple summary of the entire passage, like I'm explaining to someone with no background, step by step, like a brilliant teacher telling a true war story to a beginner. Who was Rajadhiraja Chola? Rajadhiraja was a great Chola king from South India, ruling in the early 11th century CE. He was a powerful ruler and warrior, known for leading armies himself, riding elephants into battle, and fighting against the Chalukya dynasty in the Deccan, central India. What did he want to do? Rajadhiraja wanted to attack and weaken the Chalukya kingdom, especially their lands in the Raichur Doab, a rich area between two rivers, Krishna and Tungabhadra. Loot the land, steal treasure, food, and supplies, and possibly capture their capital city, Kalyana, which had recently been rebuilt with lots of money and effort by the Chalukya king, Someshvara. This was not his first time doing this. He had done similar campaigns before, using the same tactics. How did he attack the land? As his army marched from the southern Deccan into the Raichur Doab, they destroyed everything in their path. They ruined rivers, maybe by polluting or blocking them, which made life harder for local people. They burned towns and villages, smashed buildings, temples, and scared or killed people. This was a classic shock and awe method to make the enemy panic and weaken quickly. What was the Chalukya king doing? King Samshvara of the Chalukyas was ready this time. He had placed a strong army at Kopam near the Tungabhadra River to block the Chola army's northward march. This meant Rajadhiraj had to fight a big battle first, before continuing deeper into Chalukya land or reaching Kalyana. How did both armies prepare? Both the Chola and Chalukya armies probably lined up their soldiers carefully. They used the river as protection on one side, so the enemy couldn't easily attack them from there. The armies were huge, with thousands of foot soldiers carrying all kinds of weapons, spears, swords, maces, and more. What did the Cholas do? Ancient sources say Tamil soldiers had short hair, beards, gold earrings. They painted their bodies with turmeric, yellow powder, and their shields were painted red to look fierce and scary, so they looked bold and ready for battle. What did he do in the battle? He didn't hide behind his army. Instead, he stood at the front on top of a huge elephant. The elephant carried a splendid howdah, a royal seat or platform, and his bodyguards were with him. He was leading like a real warrior, not sitting far away like some kings. He was surrounded by a tight group of elephants, also ready for war. These elephants were painted with scary symbols and had armor and weapons. Some of them were even given heroic names, like soldiers, because they were so important and brave in battle. What was Rajadhiraja's strategy? His main battle strategy was march loudly and visibly, showing off his large army to scare the enemy, ravage the enemy's land to weaken them before the real fight, loot and steal wealth to bring back glory and riches, capture the enemy's important cities like Kalyana to break their power. Why is this moment important? This moment sets the stage for the Battle of Kopam, a very big and famous battle between two powerful Indian kingdoms, the Cholas and the Chalukyas. It shows how medieval kings planned their wars, how ancient Indian armies looked and fought, and how kings like Rajadhiraja were brave enough to lead from the front, even if it meant danger. Would you like me to now explain what happened during the Battle of Kopam, or the results of this war in the same deep, simple style? Here is a deep, detailed, and very simple summary of the whole passage you gave, like I'm telling it to someone with no background knowledge at all. The battle scene. A great war of elephants and warriors. A huge and important battle happened between two great South Indian powers, the Cholas, led by King Rajadhiraj, the Chalukyas, led by King Someshvara's generals and family. This battle is in the mid-11th century in the Deccan region, central southern India, and it was full of action, bravery, and violence. Who were the fighters? On one side were the Cholas, who had a powerful army. On the other side were the Chalukyas, whose best generals came to fight, including one of King Someshvara's younger brothers, the famous general Pulakeshin, known as the Burner of Kanchi, because he once destroyed the important Chola city of Kanchi. These leaders were very high-ranking, rich, and experienced. They didn't fight on foot like common soldiers. They rode on huge war elephants. Weapons and appearances. These Chalukya generals used special bows made of bamboo. But these were not just simple bows. They were painted red with vermilion and lac, dangerous and colorful material, decorated with jewels, tied to their hands with leather straps so they wouldn't drop them in the... They were trained to shoot arrows very fast, one after another, without stopping. How the battle started. At first, both armies just fired weapons from a distance. Arrows, spears, and other projectiles. This is called skirmishing, a way to weaken the enemy before the main attack. Then, when the time came, a loud order to attack was given. What happened in the main fight? Huge numbers of foot soldiers, infantry, ran toward each other. They crashed into each other with a sound like thunder, screaming, fighting, pushing. These poor soldiers had to kill or be killed. Most of them had no protection and faced the worst danger. Meanwhile, the noble warriors on elephants had a different goal. They searched for other elite warriors to fight. They wanted to show how brave and skillful they were, almost like performers in a show. Battle as a show. For these noble fighters, the battle was like a stage. Just like a poet shows off his poetry in a king's court, these warriors showed off their bravery on the battlefield. They wanted to impress their followers and also their king or leader, called the Vallabha. How the nobles fought. From studying hero stones, memorial stones for brave warriors, and writings from that time, historians believe these noble warriors were drawn to the front lines, where the most famous enemy commanders were. They followed the flags or banners to find their rivals. When they came forward, their soldiers would cheer for them. Poets shouted their names and family history. Conches and trumpets were blown. It was like a royal entrance, fighting to inspire. Some of these warriors even jumped into the most dangerous parts of the battlefield on purpose. Why? To inspire their soldiers to fight harder, prove that they were heroes, not cowards. Win fame and honor, even if they died. Heroic deaths. Many hero stones and old poems describe these heroic deaths. One story tells of a warrior whose head was half cut off by an arrow, but he held his own head with one hand and kept fighting. People praised him for his courage. Another warrior got stabbed in the mouth by an elephant's tusk, but he looked so fearless that it seemed like he was drinking fame from a flower stalk. These dramatic stories show how much warriors in those days wanted to be remembered as heroes, even in death. Summary of the summary. This was not just a regular battle. It was a royal performance of bravery, a place for nobles to earn honor, a dangerous arena where poor soldiers died and noble warriors tried to become legends. Both sides had elephants, archers, swordsmen, and commanders who cared as much about glory as they did about winning. Would you like me to retell the whole scene as a story with characters and dialogue in very simple style? Here's a detailed summary of the events surrounding the death of their Chola in 1054. Background. In 1054, a major battle took place between the Chola and Chalukya kingdoms. The Cholas, led by Rajadhira Chola, were in conflict with the Chalukyas, ruled by Someshvara and his generals, including one of his younger brothers and the notable General Pulakishin. The battle was set in the Deccan region, which was a strategic area. The Chola army, famous for its war elephants and powerful forces, marched into Chalukya territory. Rajadhiraja, known for his leading his theonic red tiger, which was a symbol of Chola strength. Rajadhiraja's mistake. Rajadhiraja's involvement in the battle was crucial. However, he made a significant strategic mistake by placing himself too close to the fighting lines. It is possible that he underestimated the strength of the Chalukya forces and overestimated his own abilities, got too confident in his power and leadership, thinking he could lead the charge. This decision led to his being caught in the thick of the battle, where he became vulnerable. The attack by Maharasa, a key general of the Chalukya army, noticed Rajadhiraja's exposed position. In the chaos of battle, Maharasa, riding a war elephant with his soldiers, saw an opportunity to strike at the Chola king. The Chalukya forces attacked Rajadhiraja's elephant, the most valuable part of his army. Archers fired arrows from both the ground and from other war elephants, while the elephant riders used sharp lances to target the elephant's vulnerable areas, like the eyes, mouth, and trunk. Rajadhiraja's bodyguards tried their best to shield him, using heavy leather shields, but the elephant's injuries caused it to collapse, leaving Rajadhiraja exposed. Rajadhiraja's refusal to surrender. At this point, Rajadhiraja was at the mercy of his enemies. The Chalukya generals might have offered him a chance to surrender, which was a common practice in war. However, Rajadhiraja, being a Chola emperor, refused to give in. The Chola emperors were known for their bravery and honor in battle, and surrender was not in their nature. Rajadhiraja likely responded with anger, refusing to give up and possibly using Tamil curses to express his defiance. This attitude only escalated the situation. Rajadhiraja's death. As the battle continued, Rajadhiraja Chola was killed. The Chalukya forces decisively struck, and his head was severed from his body. It is said that his head was still covered in the oil from his morning bath, which symbolized his royal stature and bravery. Rajadhiraja died as a warrior on the battlefield, fulfilling his duty to the end. He was not captured or humiliated. Instead, he died fighting fiercely. Immediate consequences. Rajadhiraja's death was a devastating blow to the Chola army. Losing their leader shattered the Chola's morale. However, Rajadhiraja's younger brother, Rajendra Sid, arrived with reserve troops and managed to push back the Chalukya elephants. Rajendra II helped stabilize the situation and prevent a total collapse of the Chola army. Despite this, the battle was closely fought, and while the Cholas claimed victory, the loss of their emperor meant that the victory felt hollow. The aftermath. The Cholas stayed on the battlefield, but they knew they had been struck by a major loss. Even though they remained in control of the field, Rajadhiraja's death meant they had lost something much more valuable than just territory. The Chalukya forces also suffered heavy losses. General Pulakeshin, a key Chalukya leader, was killed, along with many other senior officers. Despite their losses, the Chalukya kingdom was able to save the Deccan region, which had been under threat from the Cholas. The Chola army's victory on the battlefield was largely symbolic, as they could not ignore the fact that Rajadhiraja had been killed. Rajadhiraja's legacy. Rajadhiraja Chola was honored posthumously as Anemerunjina Devar, the king who died on the back of an elephant. This title highlighted his bravery and sacrifice on the battlefield. The Cholas tried to continue their rule after his death. The following day, Rajendra II was crowned as the new king, but he quickly left the battlefield to prevent any rebellions or disputes over the throne. Despite the Chola victory on the battlefield, it was clear to everyone that Rajadhiraja's death was a devastating loss for the Chola Empire. Other regions, like Sri Lanka, began to rebel, pulling away Chola forces. Final impact on the Chola Empire. The Cholas' defeat was not only in the loss of their emperor, but also in the damage to their reputation. The battle weakened the Chola Empire and saved the Deccan from Chola domination. Despite this, the Cholas were not able to hold on to the Deccan as they had hoped, and the Chalukyas were able to maintain control. The Chola victory was only a symbolic one. In reality, Rajadhiraja's death marked the beginning of a difficult period for the Chola Empire. Key takeaways. Rajadhiraja Chola, a strong and confident king, made the mistake of getting involved too deeply in the battle and became vulnerable. Chalukya generals, led by Maharasa, attacked and killed Rajadhiraja after injuring his elephant. Rajadhiraja refused to surrender, dying bravely in the thick of battle. Despite some Chola victories on the battlefield, the loss of their king severely impacted the Chola Empire. Rajendra II, Rajadhiraja's younger brother, quickly became king but faced the challenge of managing the aftermath of the battle and securing his rule. The battle demonstrated that victory is not always about winning the battlefield. Losing a leader like Rajadhiraj can have long-lasting consequences. This was a significant and tragic moment in Chola history, where a single battle shook the empire and highlighted the importance of leadership, bravery, and the harsh realities of war. The great, deep, and very detailed summary of the entire passage, explained in the simplest possible way so a beginner or child can fully understand. The context, before the celebration. In the year 1054, a major battle was fought between two powerful kingdoms in South India. The Cholas, ruled by Rajadhiraja Chola, who came from Tamil Nadu and had a strong empire. The Chalukyas, ruled by Someshvaras, who ruled the Deccan region. Modern Rajadhiraja led a huge invasion into the Deccan to fight the Chalukyas. He went deep into their land, maybe thinking he would win again like before. But the Chalukyas were prepared, and a fierce battle happened at Kapam. What happened in the battle? The Chalukyas sent their best generals, Maharasa and Bacharaja, with trained soldiers and strong war elephants. In the middle of the fight, Rajadhiraja Chola himself got caught up in heavy battle. He might have charged ahead too fast or got surrounded. His elephant was attacked. Arrows were shot at him and the elephant from all directions. The elephant was stabbed with huge, sharp spears. The elephant was wounded so badly that it collapsed. Rajadhiraja was killed brutally, likely while still trying to fight. His head was cut off and later brought to King Someshvara as a trophy. After the battle, even though the Cholas later pushed the Chalukyas back and claimed they had won the battle, they had really lost something much greater, their emperor. This made their victory empty and painful. The celebrations in the Chalukya kingdom. After hearing of Rajadhiraja's death, the Chalukya cities, especially Kalyana, the capital, celebrated joyfully. People rang temple bells, played drums, and blew conch shells in temples. They thanked their god Shiva because they believed their victory was due to his blessings. What the Chalukya court declared, the Chalukya royal court made a powerful public statement. They called Rajadhiraja a wicked king who had done sinful things like burning temples, attacking innocents, and breaking royal duties. They said that he got what he deserved. His own actions led to his death. They said he gave his living head as an offering to Someshvara, their king. This message was sent to show the world that Someshvara was not just a powerful king. He was lucky, favored by fate, and perhaps chosen by the gods. Honoring the Chalukya generals. General Mararasa, who led the attack and probably struck the final blow, was given a special royal title, Rajadhiraja Chola Ganda, which means the destroyer of Rajadhiraja Chola. He was also called Queen Maladevi's champion, showing his high status in the court. General Bachiraja proudly brought the cut-off head of Rajadhiraja to King Someshvara. His family boasted about this act as a great achievement. Humiliation of the enemy. Rajadhiraja's severed head became a symbol of revenge in the Chalukya capital. People mocked it, paraded it, and celebrated its fall. It was their way of paying back the Cholas, who had earlier burned Chalukya cities and temples and hurt their people. For the Chalukyas, this was not just war, it was justice and pride, what it meant for the Deccan. After many years of war and struggle, Someshvara's big victory in Rajadhiraja's death looked like a final turning point. People felt that Someshvara had saved the Deccan from Chola attacks. The Chalukyas now looked like the most powerful kingdom in South India, just like in the past. Final takeaway, summary in one paragraph. The death of Rajadhiraja Chola in 1054 was a huge moment in South Indian history. Though the Cholas claimed victory, the loss of their emperor crushed their strength and pride. In contrast, the Chalukyas celebrated with music, religion, and royal honors. They used the moment to declare their king Someshvara as a chosen, lucky ruler, and treated the fallen Chola as a villain who got what he deserved. With this dramatic victory, Someshvara re-established the Chalukyas as the most powerful force in the southern Deccan, a message that echoed across the subcontinent. Would you like this turned into a timeline, story-style version, comic-style visual summary next? Here is a deep, detailed, and very simple summary of the full passage you shared. I will explain it like a story, slowly and clearly, adding more helpful context so that anyone, even a beginner, can fully understand it. Deep summary of the passage. Fortune's favorites, winter 1054. 1. A big change in power happens in 1054. In the year 1054, a very important event happened in South India. The Chola Emperor Rajadhiraja died. He had been one of the most powerful kings in South India. After his death, the Chola kingdom, from Tamil Nadu, became quiet and cautious. They turned their attention inwards. They stopped expanding and focused on their own problems, like choosing a new king and managing the empire after their ruler's death. This death gave a big opportunity to their rival kingdom, the Kalyana Chalukyas from Karnataka, ruled by a clever and ambitious king named Someshvara. Someshvara becomes super powerful. While the Cholas slowed down, Someshvara and his Chalukya Empire grew stronger and more confident. He expanded his empire in several directions. He controlled Raichur, a very rich and fertile region. He made the Konkan coast, the west coast near Goa and Mumbai, submit to his rule. He defeated Malwa, a powerful kingdom in central India. He was now about to take over Vengi, a kingdom in Andhra Pradesh. At this point, Samshvara was at the height of his power. This was the most successful moment of his rule. His army had won many battles, and he had scared or defeated many of his rivals. 3. The problem of Vengi. The kingdom of Vengi had been caught for many years in a tug-of-war between kings and empires. The king of Vengi was Rajaraja Narendra. He had a half-brother named Vijayaditya Saseps, who was his rival and wanted the throne. Vijayaditya was a close friend and ally of Sameshvara, the Chalukya king. Narendra and Vijayaditya had been fighting each other for control of Vengi for many years. Their fight kept changing, going up and down, like a seesaw. Sometimes one was winning, sometimes the other. Their fight was made worse because both men had powerful allies, like the Cholas or the Chalukyas, who helped them, but only when it helped their own goals. So Vengi was always in political trouble, always at war, and never peaceful. 4. The Chalukyas gained the upper hand. By 1054, Samshvara was so powerful that Narendra realized he could no longer fight him. The Chalukyas had become the most powerful force in the Deccan region, central South India. It looked like Sameshvara would now finally help Vijayaditya take over Vengi and remove Narendra from the throne. 5. But a surprise deal happens. Instead of removing Narendra, Sameshvara made a deal with him. He allowed Narendra to stay king, but not as a full independent ruler. He made Narendra a vassal king, which means Narendra could rule Vengi, but he had to obey and answer to Sameshvara, the emperor. So Vengi was now under Chalukya control, but not through violence. It was a clever political move. No more fighting, but still power for Sameshvara. Shot 6. Planning for the future. Sameshvara wasn't finished. He wanted to make sure that after Narendra died, Vengi would belong fully to the Chalukyas. So he gave his eldest son, also named Sameshvara, a title. He called him the Lord of the City of Vengi. This shows that Sameshvara planned to rule Vengi directly from his capital Kalyana in the future. It was part of a long-term plan to bring Vengi fully into the Chalukya Empire after Narendra's time ended. What this whole passage really shows. This moment in 1054 was a turning point in South Indian politics. The death of the Chola emperor weakened Chola power. The Chalukya emperor Someshvara used this moment to expand his empire and take control of key regions. Instead of using only war, Someshvara used clever diplomacy and long-term planning to bring Vengi under his control. He managed to outsmart his enemies, gain land, and prepare the future for his son without always needing to fight. This shows us that in history, politics is not just about war. It's also about timing, smart decisions, alliances, and planning ahead. Would you like a simple diagram or chart to show how power moved between these kingdoms? Here is a great, deep, and very detailed summary of the passage you shared, written in the simplest and clearest way, like telling a full story to someone with no background knowledge. Hash your detailed summary, simplest style possible. After King the Kalyana Chalukyas made a political deal with Rajadiraj Narendra, the current king of Vengi, another important man, Vijayaditya Sephet, felt deeply hurt and angry. Vijayaditya had fought for years to win Vengi and had even worked closely with Someshvara in battles. He thought he would be rewarded with the throne of Vengi, but instead, Someshvara allowed his half-brother and rival, Narendra, to keep ruling Vengi. This felt like a betrayal to Vijayaditya. To calm him down, Someshvara gave Vijay important positions and titles elsewhere in the Deccan, central southern India. But that wasn't what Vijayaditya really wanted. He wanted the kingship of Vengi. So, although he didn't start a war, he remained quietly angry. Vijayaditya soon found a powerful ally in Vikramaditya, the second son of Someshvara. Vikramaditya, like Vijayaditya, had also been sidelined. He had fought bravely in wars, but Someshvara had chosen his older son as the future king instead. So, Vijayaditya and Vikramaditya both clever and experienced in politics and warfare, began planning together. They were likely plotting a rebellion or future power move. Meanwhile, Narendra, the king of Vengi, became less powerful. He had to live under the control of Samshvara and was kept far away from his Chola relatives, which made him feel lonely and sad. Narendra had royal blood from both sides. His father was from the Vengi Chalukyas. His mother was Kundavai, the daughter of the great Chola king Rajaraja As. He had also married Amangai, the daughter of Rajendra Cholas, who was also his cousin. Together, Narendra and Amangai had a son named Rajiga, named after his Chola grandfather, Rajendra. This boy was raised in Tamilakam, Chola country in southern India, where his maternal uncles were powerful kings and princes. So Rajiga probably looked up more to the Cholas than to his own father, Narendra. As time passed, Narendra had no real political power and was living in the shadow of Sameshvara. So looking for something meaningful to do, he turned to culture and literature. He remembered how the old king Amogavarsha had helped make Kannada into a respected poetic language. Inspired by this, Narendra wanted to do something similar for Telugu, the language spoken in Vengi and nearby areas. So Narendra hired a brilliant poet named Nannaya, a Brahmin from Tamilakam. He asked him to write the first grand poem in polished, courtly Telugu. This would help. Make Telugu a respected language of poetry and kingship. Celebrate the culture of Vengi. Show the world that Telugu was just as rich and beautiful as Sanskrit or Tamil. Narendra's request also shows that kings in this time took their family legends very seriously. The royal blood came from gods, and they wanted poets to write about this. These poems were not just entertainment, they were political tools and a way to build glory and legacy. Even though Narendra was no longer powerful as a king, he hoped to leave a legacy through language and poetry, something that would last longer than his reign. Vijayaditya, feeling betrayed, secretly joined forces with Vikramaditya to regain power, while the sidelined king Narendra, sad and powerless, launched the rise of Telugu as a royal literary language through the poet Nannaya. Would you like a simplified story-style version of this whole event, or a deep explanation of what Nannaya's poem was and how it shaped Telugu literature? Here's a great, deep, detailed summary in the most simple language of the full passage you asked about. Summary of the passage. In the 1000 CE, in South India, a king named Rajendra Narendra ruled over the region of Vengi, in present-day Andhra Pradesh. He came from two famous families. His father was from the Chalukyas of Vengi. His mother was Kundavai, daughter of Rajaraja Chola, one of the greatest kings of the Cholas. So he had blood Chalukyas and the two powerful royal dynasties. He was married to Amangai, daughter of Rajendra Chola, making him even more closely tied to the Cholas. His son, named Rajiga, was brought up mostly in Tamilakam, Chola land, where he admired his Chola uncles more than his own father's side. Later, Rajendra Narendra's political life started falling apart. He lost power to his half-brother, Vijayaditya II, who was backed by Samshvara Ust, the powerful emperor of the Western Chalukyas, Kalyana Chalukyas. But instead of replacing Narendra, Sameshvara made a deal with him. Narendra would stay king, but as a vassal, a lesser king under Samshvara. Samshvara even put his own son in Vengi to oversee things, showing he planned to rule Vengi directly after Narendra's death. This deeply upset Vijayaditya, who had helped Sameshvara in battles. He felt betrayed because Narendra, his rival, got to stay on the throne. As a result, Vijayaditya started plotting with Sameshvara's second son, Prince Vikramaditya, who also felt left out of power. These two men, both clever and ambitious, began quietly planning a power move for the future. Meanwhile, King Narendra, now older and out of real power, lived a quiet, sad life, far from his Chola relatives. To keep himself busy, he focused on something meaningful and cultural. He came up with a literary project. He asked a smart poet and scholar named Nannaya to translate the Mahabharata into Telugu. Why? Because he loved the Mahabharata, especially the stories of the Pandavas, who he believed were his ancestors. He wanted these great stories, originally in Sanskrit, to be available in the language his people spoke, Telugu. He told Nannaya to make it beautiful, clear, and loyal to the original meaning. Nannaya's work became the first great Telugu poem. It was not a full translation, but it started a new style of courtly Telugu literature, using both Telugu and complex Sanskrit styles. This was a huge moment in Telugu culture. Even though Nannaya died before finishing the Mahabharata, later poets would continue his work. Over time, courtly Telugu became so important and rich, it even became more famous than Kannada and Tamil literature in some royal courts. Telugu literature reached its golden age during the Vijayanagara Empire in the 1500s, the Goldenate, and the Nayaka kingdoms of Tamil Nadu in the 1600s to 1700s. Back in the 1000s, while poetry bloomed in many royal courts, a great king and poetry lover named Bhoja of the Paramaras was having a tragic end. Bhoja's kingdom was attacked by Samshvara, and then by other enemies like the Chalukyas and Kalachuris. His capital, Dara, was destroyed. Bhoja, once very powerful and respected, lost everything. After he died in sadness, his kingdom collapsed into chaos, and his family fought each other for power. Key themes and takeaways. 1. Politics and betrayal. Powerful people like Vijayaditya and Vikramaditya were pushed aside, leading to plotting and power struggles. 2. Cultural revival. Even though Narendra lost political power, he helped launch a new literary tradition in Telugu. Rise of Telugu literature. Nannaya's work helped Telugu become a major language for poetry and epic storytelling, just like Kannada and Tamil. 4. Fall of great kings. Even a brilliant ruler like Bhoja, who loved knowledge and art, could be defeated and forgotten due to war and politics. 5. How literature grows from history. Personal emotions, like Narendra's sorrow and pride, helped create great art that lasted for centuries. Would you like a visual timeline or chart of these events or people to make it even clearer?